Extra.
Welcome to UBC TV. Good morning, Ghana Extra. It is the 5th of August in this year, 2020, 15 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. My name is Jagan Asemakola Ziksoka. Another lovely day that the Lord God has given to us. Welcome to UBC TV. And of course, picking it up from where Ruben Impima and the team of sports there, Peter Otai and John Burns Centum, giving it to us this morning as the rest of Uganda continues to celebrate and to jubilate together with Peruth Chemchai and now the Golden Girl of Uganda, the first to get a gold medal at the Olympics ever in our history, sporting history here in the country. Congratulations again to you, Chemchai, and the team in Tokyo, Japan, and of course to the force, the police force. I was actually going to say Police FC because I support Police FC, but from all that, congratulations, Chemchai. Now, back to Good Morning Uganda. Welcome to our conversation this morning, and we will talk about issues of the older persons. Joining me in studios today is Mr. John Mary Byaruhanga, the Secretary General of Older Persons, Council of the Older Persons in Kampala District. You're very welcome, Mr. Byaruhanga, John Mary.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jagenda.
You either choose to get off the mask completely, because aren't you comfortable using a mask on you?
No, my voice is somehow, I've got some issues. So.
Okay, well, now that's okay. After all, I'm actually putting on a mask. At the national TV here, we encourage people because we are the ones communicating the message of masking rightly and doing all the things. That's why we endeavor to do what we actually preach. We shouldn't think we are telling the people and it does not concern us. Okay. But now that there's a distance and I am masking up, we'll talk. Let's get to, first of all, what's this Council of the Older Persons in Kampala? What is it to begin with?
Okay, the Council for Older Persons in Kampala is not only for older persons in Kampala, it is a national council. We have these councils throughout the country, which are, are in place by the Act of Parliament. This Act of Parliament was inaugurated in 2013, and these councils are being informed by the Act, which known as the Act, the National Council of Older Persons Act, 2013, and this district council, when you peruse in the Act, you find them on section 16, of the 15 Act. Of the Act and 16, which says there shall be a district council for older persons, and then 16 entails the composition of the council, how it can be composed. Okay. And then beside that, we have a National Council for Older Persons Regulations of 2015 that regulates its position and the activities
of the older persons,
and its elections.
Okay. Yes. Let's also understand who the older persons in this country are. Constitutionally, when we talk about the youth, we talk about children who are 18 and 30, between 18 and 30. Those are they that we qualify as the youth. How about the elders? How do you qualify to be an elder?
Okay. Former Uganda, the older persons were those from 55, but from 1996, we adopted the international standard, which says the older persons is starting from 60 years and above. So that is the international standard. So that Uganda being a signatory to United Nations protocol, then we had to adopt that.
Okay, so for as long as you're 16 and above, you qualify to be an elder.
You qualify to be an elder, and you qualify to be elected in any position. Okay,
so you are the General Secretary.
Yeah.
So you're one of the members of the Elder Councils.
Yes.
The Council of the Older Persons in Kampala District.
In Kampala District. But we have 24 districts in Uganda, including the cities. So this time around, we managed to get the representative from each district that
okay.
compose Uganda.
So you're also in Parliament. Now let's start with that. We are seeing you having a representation in Parliament. Yes. For the first time, for people in Parliament representing the older persons of this country. What are your expectations from these members of Parliament? Do you think that their being in Parliament is of any benefit to the older persons in this country?
Yeah, it's true indeed, because we've been, in fact, I may thank God that I've been one of the agitators to have a representative in Parliament. Because those people who were in the Parliament before, they are old persons, but they had gone there for different interests, different representation. So this time around, we do commend our president, who had our cry, and this time around, and the member of Parliament, the 10th Parliament, which passed the law which provides the slot, the 5 slots for older persons in Parliament. Though it had some hiccups, but we thank the former Speaker and the legislatures who are there who passed this law. But subsequently, we will need also to thank our beloved President has given us even the state minister from our own, who known as Mr. Kidodo, who have been working with us. Okay. So now we have a line. And
the president could have done very good to you, yes, by giving you all the hearing your cry, like you said, and of course heeding to your prayers, and giving you all this. But what are your expectations? Did you think by having Honorable Gidudu as your minister, yes, do you think having these 5 members of Parliament, yes, for the different regions, yes, and national, yes, are you optimistic that they will actually serve you and that there will be some change in the lives of the older adults in this country?
Yeah, we are too optimistic that, in the sense that these are the people whom we can hold account. Because now, if I go to the office of Mr. Gidudu, Minister Kidodo, he knows me, and I will tell him this is the issue of the older persons, and these are people whom we've been elected by ourselves. So they have that sense and responsibility. Because after 5 years, they will have to account for us, what they have done for us. And like in the past, you couldn't, even when we used to go to Parliament, they would tell you, who is going to represent your issues? Though there are some older persons, but you know those so-called elite people, but once they are there, they are in a comfortable zone, they don't, think about the other people. But what I'm urging to our representatives this time around, to come down to us. Because in our national policy, there is a section 50 saying all the approaches should be bottom to
bottom-up approaches.
Yes. So that's what we are urging our representatives, our member of Parliament, to come down to us, to get the real facts from the grassroots.
What are these issues that you want your members of Parliament to get to? Because I think when we understand those, we will be informed and we'll be able to understand how the older persons are actually managing during this period of the pandemic. Because every category has different challenges. COVID is hitting us together, but of course we are facing its wrath at different levels. But what are these pertinent issues that you, the older persons, want the minister to address, want the members of Parliament to address, and the issues that you think if government addresses things, then this is what we'll see older persons become in this country?
Well, in the first place, I would love to our representatives to initiate a mechanism starting from the government departments and the general public to mitigate these tendencies of ageism and ageist. So I will try to explain about ageism. Ageism, it's about these young men. They think, not only young men, even service providers. For example, during this pandemic, you'll see some of these services would go for youth. When they talk about youth, borders. Why? Because those are troublemakers. And when you check even in financial allocations, you find the other persons are not seen anywhere apart from the other meager money of SAGE. Okay, so they assume assuming that these other persons are no longer matter. Maybe they are no longer in existence. So that ageism should be pricked out from the tendencies. There's biased tendencies. So some of us who try to do advocacy, because for me, beyond being a member,
General Secretary,
secretary, and I'm advocate for rights of other persons, we meet these things when you go to offices, presenting your case. You find those office bearers, some of them. They don't seem to understand what you are going to talk about. It's like we are talking about something strange. When you talk about issues of other persons are being oppressed, their rights are being violated, and all that, you see somebody will just look in the sky. It's like you are talking something from another planet. So we need to induct our people to bring down that though you are youth, you are there, but there's somebody who has made you to be what you are today. And tomorrow you'll be like us. Like some of us in 70s, we used to carry guns to do what, but now I cannot. You understand? So even we need to inform our policymakers, the government departments, agencies, civil societies. We have a lot of many of civil societies in this country claiming to be working for other persons, but we haven't seen them. Even in the midst of this crisis, we have other persons who have been suffering, dying, not necessarily of COVID, but they die out of anxiety. They die out of losing self-esteem. Like I was saying, ageist. Yeah? Ageist means somebody says, for me, I'm an older person, nobody cares about me. After all...
So ageism, ageism yes. comes from these who keep categorizing the ages.
Yes.
Then the ageists is self-pity.
Yeah, yes, self-pity, self-surrendering, self-pull out. For example, for some of our older persons, we won't tell them, this is your right. Say, now what do I do? Let them do what they want. Now we can see, even for you have been watching TV, you see our lands, our counterparts, their lands have been grabbed. Saying, how you go and die. You see, we have other persons on the streets, not because they didn't have where to stay. They have been, their lands have been grabbed, and no mechanism in place to take care of their lives.
I thought human rights are universal.
Yeah.
Your right as a human being is my right as a human being.
Yes.
Do you have some specific rights as the other persons that we need to know? Because to own property is a human right to me and you, for as long as we are all Ugandans in the way. For you to possibly go to hospital, not possibly, for you to go to hospital and get medicine, for you to do all these things, it is your right just as it is my right. Must I be a youth to benefit from that? Must I be an old man to get benefit from? Are there any specific human rights issues that concern you, the older persons, that possibly we infringe on them because we feel it doesn't concern us? After all, I'm not even an old person.
To begin with, when you go into our constitution, says everybody in Uganda has equal rights.
Yes. Yes.
By law and under law. You get it? So when we go to Article 32, Clause 2, you find that there is a specific clause, notwithstanding Clause 1. Because Clause 1 is talking about affirmative action and those people who are their rights to be considered, those things which have been created by history, by age, by sex. You understand? So now it's saying, notwithstanding with the Clause 1, any practice any culture, any law that comes against the above clause is prohibited by this constitution. So, and the constitution is a motherland law. All these acts, just they're under that law. So whenever you deny me what I'm supposed to get, for example, I'm supposed to be treated. Now, for example, you see when older persons go to hospitals, 85%. This is a research from Ministry of Gender and Labour and the Housing the UBOS. Yeah? I think 85% they've been denied health care because when they go there, say, after all, you are old. They give them Panadol. They write Panadols. They just say you go because you are aged. That's why you are suffering. And then this person goes what is head down because he or she didn't get what she is supposed to get. Now, when it comes to financial empowerment, you find 85%. This is a research also from Ministry of Gender. They cannot access financial provision.
Financial inclusion. They are not into the financial inclusion.
Yes. Now you can see there's this Myoga. There are some government interventions, but they leave out the older persons. Because now when you are going to Myoga, they will tell you you must have saved some money somewhere. And these are the people who have been living hand to mouth. The money they had, we used it to educate our children, to contribute to government programs. And it is also in the research that 95%, 85%, they never accessed any government employment. You understand? So they don't have any savings. Okay. And even those who do, their savings have been curtailed. I mean, they have been denied to get their pensions.
Do we look at older persons in this country as a section of disabled people? Do we look at older persons as a disability? Do we look at it as a privilege? Or do we look at it as a problem to our society? Are older persons considered disabled persons? Are they considered so privileged? Or we think they are a taboo, a problem, a burden to us?
Well, it is well said. According to the community's attitude and the biasness, they take older persons like a wastage of resources. Now, for example, to begin with, when the president, the cabinet brought into parliament the act, to pass the act to provide for these 5 thoughts, you had many young people say, why should, after all, let them go to the villages and sleep and die from there. Why should they get representative in parliament? That's one aspect. And that one is lifeful in our daily activities. So when you go in our communities, in our home, you find older persons, even your own parents, when they come to town here, they cannot access milk. There are few of your brothers and sisters who can provide some milk, provide some adequate medical care. They say, you give him that dry tea, the milk tea is for our children and others, because for them they are still growing. But that is not right, because where you are, there's somebody who made it to be there. So in our society, we are taken as burden, as no use.
So the society looks at older persons as a burden to the society.
Yeah, as a burden to society.
A burden to the society, a problem to the community.
To the community. So that's why we are able to come to these media houses to inform the communities, to inform government. Okay. Even, unfortunately, even government itself. Though it puts on, they are put on these structures, but you find these structures have rendered less to the propagation of the rights of older persons. Why? Simply because these structures are there, but they are not facilitated. For example, our councils are not facilitated to do our work. We have got to use Omega funds all throughout the country. And the unfortunate majority of our fellow leaders, they came into these positions thinking that there are some money, which is not. So now we are appealing to our MPs to facilitate these councils so that they can do their mandated duties. And then to initiate some programs for helping older persons. For example, now you can see there are some funds for youth, livelihood, women in entrepreneurship, State House, this youth training, right? What they are
skilling the girl child.
Sorry?
The presidential skilling the girl child.
Yeah, for girl child. How older persons, because now when you clock 60, you cannot be employed anywhere. In government department, neither in other private companies. So these people, they leave their work while they are still energy to do some work. And yet they meet other responsibilities. We have our grandchildren. You whom you produce from Kampala, you bring them down, you dump them in the village. And the majority of them, they don't come back to take care of them. So we need that program. So when the government is bringing some programs, should be customized for older age compliance. Because unfortunately, the government, when it brings on programs, they think everybody is inclusive, whereas not.
So what's older age compliance in this case? You talk about programs that government can bring under older age compliance. What do you mean?
Older age compliance, those are the programs that are old age friendly. You get what I'm saying? Because now if you are bringing a program of maybe economic empowerment, should be categorized, should be customized, like they are doing for youth. That fund is only for youth, and this money should be only for the older persons. These are the older persons who cannot afford their medical bills. They cannot afford their day-to-day accounts. You get what I'm saying? Yes. So in Kampala it is worse, because in Kampala here we have a number of we are approaching 40,000.
40,000?
Yeah, we are approaching 40,000. But according to Bureau of Statistics, we are 3,050 1,500 by 2019. You get what I'm saying? But now I think we have already increased. And out of this, in Kampala alone, 4,550, they cannot afford 2 meals a day.
Okay. And you see, I know these are some of the challenges that older persons are facing during this time of the pandemic.
Yes.
The challenges, yes. But I also want to know, if the community, the society looks at you as a burden, having John Mary Byaruhanga in your society, how old are you, Mzee?
You want to know my age?
Yeah, because
I'm 68.
Okay, 68?
Yeah.
Okay, somebody would say, now a man of 68 in this village, he's a liability to us. But how do you consider yourself? If we in the community look at you as a burden, you are liabilities to us. How do you consider yourselves? Do you look at yourselves in abantu abaliko obulemu? Do you look at yourselves as disabled persons? Or you look at yourselves as people who have entitlement because I am 68 years, so this has to happen to us?
Well, and that's why I'm here to encourage my fellow older persons that we shouldn't surrender. Though the society is biased on us, but for me, as somebody who has studied human rights law, I cannot say that, no, I just give up. No, that's why I'm here. I'm trying to challenge the government, to challenge the service providers, and also to call upon my fellow older persons. We have equal rights with the youth, with the others. In fact, our rights should be a priority, because we have a lot we have contributed to this nation, and we are still contributing as well. And then also I'm calling upon our fellow older persons to have, there's a disconnection nowadays between the aged and the youth. So we need to have that intergenerational linkage. In fact, I'm proposing even to our legislatures also to come up with those policies. And that's why you see our country has torn apart. Because these youth, they tend to be knowing everything, and they know that they can marshal out everything that takes to the rights of this country.
Okay, you talked about programs that are old age compliance, and you want, like for example, we have youth programs, and we know those are designed for the youth. That if Uganda comes and I'm not anywhere between 18 and 30, I don't qualify. The older persons have a fund called SAGE. It is, I think, I don't know who benefits from that. I used to know when it was at 60, I think the ages were moved. Because even amongst the older persons, you also have categories. Yes. Those who are 60 and maybe 70 may not face the same challenges as those who are possibly after 70 and maybe 80, the older persons of 80 and maybe 100, because you have all those in this country. You have the SAGE fund. Now that comes to you. What particular project would you recommend to government and say, we the older persons at 60, 70, 80, we can actually do this, and so we can do this project or program that government can put in money. For example, like you talk about Myoga, OWC, we are talking about the youth livelihood funds, we talk about all these. And now we know that we are empowering these children, we are empowering these. There is the UWEP in the same department, I think, where you are. There is a Uganda Women Entrepreneur Project or program, the UWEP fund. Now, I am looking at the ladies the women who benefit from that fund. Now, do they come as women or they also come as old women? Because there could be a woman who is strong and then there could be another frail woman. So do you come and say, I am Mrs. Byaruhanga because I am 68, so I don't know, but I'm looking at that. Government gives you some money to keep going, but you also want a project. What programs can you do that government will put a fund and that you use this money and do something for yourselves as older persons?
Well, the program, like you've said, I can take you back what you said, because in our old age, we have categories. Okay. Like now, 60 from 60 to 65, 65 to 70, 75 to 80, 85.
So the categories are 5, 5, 5.
5, 5.
Yes, different
yes,
5.
Yes, different 5, 5. So now, an old person of 80 years or 90 years and above cannot be the same as somebody with 60 and above. So what I'm trying to put across is government should design a program for targeting those different categories of old age. And that's why I said we need a compliance program for, the program specified for the older persons. These are the people who we don't just want to entertain these handouts only. But there are some people who are educated and those who are not educated. So what we need is to retool these older persons to make their own, because this one also, it is helps these older persons not to go to dementia situation. Because once somebody is stressed, when somebody is isolated, he goes quickly to the dementia state, and which is very bad for the old age. So now what we are saying is the ministry and the government should come up with, for us we are ready, we can design our own program, but we need funds. We need retooling, to be...
You can design your own programs, like which, for example, because government will give you the money, and I think the ministry can actually push for that money. We can also help advocate for that money. But what programs are you asking for as older persons?
Because this program differs.
Yes.
Somebody like who are in Kampala, we cannot have the same program like some people in the rural already.
So, for example, you belong to the council for elder persons in Kampala. When you're talking on behalf of your fellow elder persons in Kampala, what projects are these that you want government to set up for you?
This government will depend, because now we have 5 divisions which have got different needs. So for us in our council, we have embarked on a problem identification now. We are going down to the village, to our divisions leaders, because we have 5 divisions executive committees, to find out what is their need best. Because these needs, we cannot just come and assume. For example, for me, I may assume that I need Mr. Jagenda to put him a shop somewhere. And then it is not your need. You get what I'm saying? And there are some other persons who say, for me, if we give him 50,000, I can buy a charcoal a sack of charcoal and start trading here. So we are now...
Which is actually what I want you to tell us, because yes, you are doing a very good thing now that you're identifying the different problems and assessing them for different older persons, because you've been categorized. If somebody who is 65 wants to sell charcoal, an 80-year-old woman may not actually think about selling charcoal.
Of course.
And the other thing is, you're also saying, yes, you don't want to live on government handouts, which I think is not a good thing. Now, but there is this UEP money. And I'm only looking at people who did not have employment with government that they are possibly earning pension. But I'm looking at those that never went to school, they've lived informally, in a way, never did a government job. You gave us a statistics of about 90 who have not done a job with government. But there is the SAGE fund. This money comes. What does it come to do? And I am looking, should there be a program, for example, UEP, women go and say, let me go get some money from this fund, then go to the market. And vend food, then go and do this, then go and do this. I'm seeing them do that. So can older persons, you want to, because I'm looking at what you say, the financial inclusion, do older persons in this country, can they still contribute to financial inclusion in a way? Because that's why I was actually insisting that if the societies see you as liabilities, do you look at yourselves as abalema, abaliko obulemu, not abalema, but naye abantu abaliko obulemu? How manyinzi nakaddiwa, so what shall I do? I want to see how you come into this fraction.
Yeah. What I'm saying, in first place, we as older persons must have self-esteem by ourselves, and then we instill it to the public to deter what the public presumes that we are. And like you've said, we need these funds. Like you've said, for UEP, for women, they go and get that funds, and then they make their own program. They make their own enterprises. So it's like a sword for the older persons. If there are funds, they provide that fund, and then they tell us to categorize, to come up with what? Proposals. And we have those proposals. But we can't get access funds. For example, now when you go to Central Division here, they tell you there's the other money, which they call it what? It is from government, but also they will ask you some conditions, that you must be in a group of 15 people who have been saving ABCD. Majority of our people, they don't have money to save. So, but if there is fund like in Tandikwa, that woman can take that fund, or that man can take that fund, go and make some businesses. That's what I mean. So right now, I cannot come up with a comprehensive project that can come up. But that one can be informed when there is that provision. You get my point? So I'm calling upon the government to put a separate fund which does not have any string attached. Because you see, majority of our people, they fear these things because there's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of strings which are attached. You say, I cannot. For example, when you go to bank, you cannot access loan. They tell you you're a risk borrower. You get it. They will not give you. After 60 years, you cannot borrow money from bank. And then when you go to these financial institutions, there are some strings attached. So you find these older persons, even information dissemination alone is not adequate. And then I urge the government also to use these councils. These councils are being elected by law, but when this program, because it is within our functions and mandate to monitor and to call our people to come and embrace these governments.
To mobilize them.
To mobilize.
Okay. Recently, before the 42-day lockdown ended, all of us, the vulnerable persons, were calling out to the Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Mama Nabanja Robina, to give us some money. And like you said, they were talking about borders, we talk about taxi drivers, we talk about food vendors, and in those categories. And there was nothing called the older persons. And of course the argument was, which has not stopped. Were you among those who are vulnerable that you were not included on Mama Nabanja's list?
Yes. For us in Kampala, me and my chairperson, we tried to mobilize the list for our older persons in Kampala, and we sent it to our Minister of Kampala, but it resulted in two flat results. We are not included, unlike some few who were lucky.
Because you wanted a double payment.
Not double payment.
The older persons have a fund, have some fund given to them.
Mr. Jagenda, I want to put this one clear.
Okay.
That fund we are talking about, it is in Kampala and other new districts which has come on board. They pay this fund from 80 years and above. Unlike other districts which were already in the system, which they start with 65 and Kamoja 60 years. So how do you tell me? And this one, according to the ministry, the beneficiaries were, the countrywide, were 45 something beneficiaries. And the older persons in the country were estimated to be like 5 million. Now, when you deduct 45 and point something, where do you leave this other junk?
Because the money, Mr. Yaruhanga, was not to everybody who was starving or need money. All of us would need money. But the issue was those whose businesses, whose earnings were interrupted by that mini lockdown of 42 days. That Mr. Yaruhanga goes to Chiembe every morning to tailor. But now Chiembe is locked, so Mr. Yaruhanga will not have a chalani to tailor. So he needs support. But there is a Mr. Yaruhanga who, before COVID, he doesn't do anything. During COVID, he's not doing anything. Even when COVID goes, he's the same Mr. Yaruhanga. So how has Mr. Yaruhanga been living? That Mr. Yaruhanga, before the president said, close here, close here, close here, everybody go home for 42 days, then we'll see what happens. Mr. Yaruhanga was not doing anything. Why would Mr. Yaruhanga now want to be on Nabanja's list? Because there is now some craze of some money. That's the issue.
So, because the other money was tagged on the vulnerability. If we go into definition of somebody who is vulnerable, how do you explain that one?
They talked about special vulnerable group, not the vulnerability of the lame people, the albinos, the older persons, the children. All of us are vulnerable. But there was...
Not all of us.
Yes, people are all vulnerable. But there was they actually called them special vulnerable. They even didn't want to call them vulnerable. But the special vulnerable, because Jagenda wakes up every morning and he's vending all the things, you know, in traffic jam. But now there is a lockdown, so Jagenda is not working. So this very strong Jagenda, at this very strong age, is now vulnerable because he cannot access a small thing. That's what I was saying. Not just vulnerable, that Byaruhanga at 60 is vulnerable. So how did you manage it, and how do you feel finally, because the time has run out, that you were not included?
Yeah, well, let me put this one clear.
Yes.
Because there's a missed and a mistake that other people do make. So when you want to tell me that somebody has been not working, but has been dependent somewhere, because nobody can live in isolation. For example, if you at home, you have an older person.
It is me who is working.
Yes. Now, listen, that older person, now you're not working.
Yes.
Or there's somebody who has been depending on your salary.
Yes.
But Mr. Byaruhanga has been coming to you, you give him 10,000. But now you cannot afford.
Yes.
You get it?
Exactly.
You've been, what? You've been affected.
Yes.
Now, how do you expect that person to live?
That's what I'm saying. Now, should it be me who was affected? Because Mr. Byaruhanga has been feeding from me. So if I go to Nabanja and I get money, then I'll continue feeding Byaruhanga. Why is Byaruhanga also demanding now? Because even before the lockdown in Byaruhanga, it was me feeding you. Would you also want to come as an independent entity to say, I am also vulnerable now because there is money? Or you would wish that Toro gets the money, then he comes back and buys sugar for you?
And I want to put this one clear to you again, that you must know that in Kampala here, everybody earns from his own sweat. You get it? Now, for example, if I go to Kamwacha, or I go to Kampala Road here, you find the older persons who have been vending newspapers.
Exactly.
Okay?
So those ones were affected. The older person, a 65, a 68-year Byaruhanga vending newspapers, or doing anything in Chukubo, in Chiembe, and the young Jagenda Semakula, who does the same thing like Byaruhanga, were both affected. So Byaruhanga qualifies to get, and Jagenda qualifies to get. But there is a Byaruhanga who is seated now in Chisenyi, and Jagenda is looking for money to help Byaruhanga. Why must that Byaruhanga also demand that he needs something?
Yeah, but why is demanding? For example, Mr. Jagenda, when we get into this crisis, you not first consider me, you first consider your family. You get what I'm saying? Secondly, these are the people, some of them have run away from city, gone to the village. When the president announced the lockdown, majority of them ran away from city. They went down to the... You remember on Bukeda I saw a lady who was crying. His son abandoned the children, 15 children of them. She was crying. She didn't have any hope. You get what I'm saying? So those are simple cases for the fact findings. Okay. But we have majority of them. Because we as readers, we go down, we find our people suffering.
Okay. Mr. Byaruhanga, really I beg, time has ended. Just in less than 1 minute, your final message to the older persons in about 30 seconds.
Okay, my final message goes, I make tribute to our president for having considered us, but I do ask him to do more than what we are. You are contemporary men and women. We are looking for special intervention for our plight. Our rights are being violated, left and right and center. So we need laws that can backstop all these practices and bad biases. So I call upon my fellow readers, wherever you are, we have the guidelines, the regulations and acts in place. The Constitution is guiding our rights. So let's you try them. Those who doesn't have them, you go to to your phone, you Google National Council for Older Persons Act 2013, National Council for Older Persons Regulations. You find all those facts, and they will help you to fight for our rights. And I call upon our MPs and our other service providers to consider in a very special way these people who sent you there. Because we've been propagating to have these posts, but let these posts be of the benefit. I call upon the service, other private entities like banks, to come up with the designed programs targeting the older persons, especially during this COVID. COVID has not gone yet. We're still having COVID time. We need your assistance. Bring it to the State Council, to our Chief Executive. We'll hand over those aid to our older persons, because the older persons are suffering in terms of care, in terms of food and shelter.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Byaruhanga John Mary, the General Secretary of the Council for Older Persons in Kampala District here in KCCA. Thank you so much for coming out and, of course, for continuing to advocate for your rights and for advocating for what belongs to you as older persons. We want to wish you the best, and, of course, to also wish that your members of Parliament represent you ably and meet your expectations. I thank you. The public out there, thank you so much. Let's continue keeping safe. Let's sanitize, mask, keep a distance whenever you can. And let's observe all the SOPs as the preliminary medicines before all of us get vaccinated someday. For God and my country, I love this country and I love you all. Stay blessed. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.